I now call the August 1st Board of Commissioners work session to order. The first thing on our agenda is solid waste recycling statistics presentation by McCain Lewis, our solid waste intern. Welcome.
No, here. Sorry, we didn't practice this, you can tell.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, fellow commissioners. It is my honor this afternoon to introduce to you Ms. McCain Lewis. She will be, as of tomorrow, a senior at Villa Rica High School and dual enrolled at the University of West Georgia. We have been very grateful to have her for the past 200 hours as the intern for Carroll County Solid Waste, and I'm going to turn it over to McCain to tell you a little bit about what she's been working on.
Okay, so do I read off my presentation or like?
I'm sorry?
I read off my presentation?
Well, Ms. Linda will click to the first slide, and then you can explain a little bit.
Okay, the first slide, please. Okay, so I began by organizing and charting all of the data from over the years for recycling and trash and things like that. So we worked on that for the majority of the time, especially in June. And towards the beginning of July, because we got that new information, we started by doing recycling revenue and showing how much we've made over the years by each month. Next, we did based on the convenience center and different materials like cardboard and glass and plastic. We also did the revenue versus how much it cost us, and we had a big growth in money. So yes, next slide, yes. And I was interviewed for an article basically explaining my roles in my internship and what all I plan to do and a little bit about me. Yep. And also in the beginning of June and towards the beginning of July, we worked on the transfer station kitchen renovation. I helped with things like picking out paint colors and cabinets and drawer handles, really just the extra stuff that goes into making it pretty. I also created wish lists for those kinds of things. I also cleaned it when it was all finished. I wiped down everything and made sure it was pretty and sanitized. I also created a recycling survey, which is open until the end of August, and I encourage everyone to fill it out. You can scan this QR code. Basically, it just shows why or who all is recycling, and if you're only dropping off trash, or if you do both, and if you just only recycle. You can also ask for more recycling information, and we will send out things through your email about where you can recycle, things like that. And that's all. Okay.
We're having an IT moment.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
She's not done. It's not loading the next couple pages.
That's it.
Oh, we have on here several more pages.
Oh, you may have the website part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I was like, okay, I thought it just wasn't loading because we were having a problem earlier with things taking a long time to load. So I was like, okay, I understand.
That was the article that appeared in the ACCG Spotlight, and that was McCain was there when we celebrated the Sanitation Workers Week, so that's a picture of my entire crew in the new kitchen.
Awesome. Okay.
Ms. Lewis, thank you for the presentation. Glad to hear you're in Villa Rica. That's my district, so I hope you have a nice senior year coming up at the high school. One question that I've got, and it's probably in all of these graphs that I haven't studied enough, but I know there was times too, Ms. Doss, that in some years past, I don't remember the years, we took away or didn't do certain recyclings and then we added them back, and that was a lot to do with the market as far as the revenue that we could generate. So when you're looking at the revenue here, 24, there seems to be some stability there, but in the same note, we've had other years that are showing in the graph that were a lot more substantial. So I'm curious if that is a market condition in the rate of what we're taking in, because I'm assuming if we're taking in greater volume and everything else, we would be taking in the greater volume and the recycling portions as well. So I'm just wondering how that plays out.
It does, and also you'll see the discrepancy in the amount of revenue from fiscal 22 to end of fiscal 24. A lot of that is dependent on market conditions. So it doesn't matter how much we take in. When cardboard's flat or down, that's what it is. And aluminum, same with aluminum, same with shred, it's all the same. We're subject to market conditions, so our revenue is not stable. And I'm very happy. This is just a very small sample of the charts that Ms. Lewis put together for us. I'm happy to put together an email next week and send you everything, because it not only includes the convenience center side, but it also includes the transfer station side, which is actually really important because next year our contract with GFL is going to come back up again. And I wanted to be able to have a snapshot of all of the statistics for the amount of tons we take in, the amount of loads that come out. And now not only do we have this all together in one place, thanks to Ms. Lewis, I have a cheat sheet. So every month end I can go in and put those statistics in and update that information, so we always have an accurate snapshot. I'm a visual learner, so for me to look at a chart or a graph makes a lot more sense than just looking at a bunch of numbers on a page. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted that to be her first priority and the first task that she undertook, because I've not had time in 3 years to do it. And so because Ms. Lewis is Microsoft certified, that was one of the reasons why she was selected for this internship, because I knew in Excel we can put all this data in and ping, we get pretty charts. And we even have the revenue versus what we took in for the brush. You know, we handle brush totally separately at the transfer station, so we have the statistics for that. So I am very happy next week to put y'all together a very thorough packet of all of the statistics that we have, and happy to come before you again if you have any more questions or want me to make a presentation on everything. As well, as Ms. Lewis said, the recycling survey is posted at all of the 10 convenience centers. It is on the Carroll County website. It's on the Carroll County Facebook page, and Keep Carroll Beautiful has been sharing it and sending it out at their events as well. So once we have those statistics too, I know, Mr. Chance, you were asking about that. I also want to know if people aren't recycling, why not? And they have several answers that they can select from on that, including they don't believe it's actually being recycled. Do you remember what the other answers were, McCain?
They can put Y, and then, like, if they select other, they can include Y if it's not already listed.
So they can do it open-ended and put their own answer in. So so this is just the icing on the cake, and I'm happy to share the rest of that.
Like I said, one of the main things, I just was wondering, are we comparing apples to apples? In other words, if we've narrowed it down just to the market rate, then that graph is very simplistic. If back in 2022, we were also recycling, you know, glass, and then in '23 we weren't, and then '24 we are again, or something back and forth, then that allows the graph, that the data is telling you something a lot different. So that's what I was getting at.
And I'll make sure I clarify that. We do have a separate chart altogether for glass because we've only been doing that since '23. So that's separate, and that we show not just the tons that we actually have recycled. It doesn't cost us anything to recycle glass, but we have a cost avoidance, which is significant because glass is very heavy. It used to be landfilled, so by taking those tons out of the landfill, Ms. Lewis was able to calculate for us what money Carroll County saved by recycling the glass now. So I'll make sure that's all very clear when I send those over.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Good luck with your senior year.
Thank you.
And we have a small gift for you, McCain.
Probably over there in Love Valley too, at UWG, so you'll enjoy it.
McCain,
Visiting, make any friends. But
could you stand beside the chairman for just 1 sec so Ms. Linda can take your picture? Thank you.
do y'all want to stand behind me?
Yes, we can.
Or you can come around, it's up to you. You don't have to stand there. Okay. We'll look at Linda. Thank you.
And Jacqueline, looking forward, we'll look at one of the future months and get you back on the agenda. Between Linda and I, we'll do the agenda. And Commissioners, do you want that information like next week, or do you want to wait in the next couple months for the actual presentation? Okay, so when we put you on the agenda to do a more thorough, you can bring us the paperwork then.
Okay, thank you.
Great. At this time, we're going to move into the agenda for Tuesday night. 10-3, which is the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant that we've done for many, many years now. Linda does not quite have the paperwork from the government, so we're going to move that to the August 22nd special called meeting. So the first thing is 10-1, our school resource officer, and the second 10-2, which is the Sheriff's Office Substance Abuse Support position. We have Major Craig Dodson to go over both of those with us.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, Board. Thank you for allowing us to speak this afternoon. So starting with the school resource positions, what we have here is after we submitted our budget to the county, the Board of Education came back to us and wanted to fund, they want to do a couple of things, but one is they wanted to add 2 school resource officers and fully fund them. So we're able to do that. But they'll refund us quarterly as we go. So what we're asking for is the $174,900 to fund 2 positions where I can replace them on patrol. We'll be 100% reimbursed by the end of the fiscal year from the Board of Education. So that's the addition of 2 officers. They also, because we struggled last year keeping school resource officers in the schools, keeping the positions filled, they have added a $6,000 a year stipend to the officers that are working in the schools. That's also, we will pay them out each pay period that they work in the school, and the county will be 100% reimbursed for that also. So we were asking for a budget amendment in those amounts in order to go ahead and replace those 2 positions and where we wouldn't be lagging behind and not be able to hire.
Are there any questions for Major Dodson?
Major, just to clarify, thank you for taking my phone call earlier. So not only on the front end, we're setting this up, but as we move forward, because it's kind of like a quasi-employee, they're your employee, but they're working at another institution. So if we give a bonus at Carroll County or we have a raise or whatever, that's something they understand on their end that will fluctuate over time through the reimbursement.
Correct. They get with us because they're already reimbursing partial on 8 positions. And they'll get with us, usually they was a little late on this, but they get with us and ask what we project as being a raise, or what kind of projections do we have. And so, yeah, they're good to work with us, and they certainly will communicate with us. We increase it every year as our salaries increase as that goes.
What kind of time frame you looking at getting these in place? Will they be when the school year starts next week?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got to replace them on the road. But we will have the 2 new ones in the school. One will be at Central Elementary, and one's at Temple Middle.
Okay, thank you.
So that puts us at 10. We still got a ways to go, but big picture goal is to have one in every school. And I think there's 24 campuses. So
Are y'all good with putting this on the consent agenda for Tuesday? Okay. All right, now 10-2.
okay, 10-2 is this is basically going to be I guess the title of it's a drug addiction support position in the jail that would be funded through our opioid money. And we have people that do a little of this, but it's not their focus. And what this position would do 100% is they would focus on people, for instance, if they have a conditional bond at a magistrate court. So meaning they can get a bond, but they got to go to rehab. Well, right now it's up to them to fill out the paperwork, to find a rehab, or their family, and some of them just don't have the wherewithal to do that. So this position would 100% focus on any conditional bond or any rehab sentence that somebody gets in state or superior court. We will help them get in it, complete the paperwork, find the appropriate rehab, and there's a lot to do. Finding the bed's one thing, then you got to see what requirements they have. Some of them require blood work, TB test, so this person would focus 100% on that. So we certainly think it'll help the inmate, but it'll help us clear them out of the jail quicker. And I think we're looking at trying to do it for 2 years out of the opioid settlement money, and then evaluate it and see if it's going to be what we think it is. But I feel really confident it'll be a good program.
Are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, Major Dodson.
Thank you.
And like I said, 10-3, we'll take off. 10-4, we have Dee Perry here to present with us the ACEP stewardess fee collection proposal, and we have several members from the advisory committee, so thank y'all for your time, and thank you for coming here too if we have any questions. And
Have to get my strong arm up here with me. Thank y'all for letting me come visit with you again. I did send everyone an email last week. I'm sorry it was rather detailed, but it is sometimes a complicated subject. Sometime, I believe it was last year, Sharon Swagger, who is our NRCS rep for the state, she's the Assistant State Conservationist in Athens, was having discussions with Stacy about stewardship fees. Stewardship fees are a normal course of business in conservation easements. And what they do, these fees, they're paid by the landowner, and what it does is help fund the monitoring that's required. With FRPP and ACEP program conservation easements, the properties have to be monitored every year. When they're monitored, you meet with the landowner, you take photographs, you look for potential problems, and then throughout the year, you answer questions if the property is being sold, you help the new landowner understand the terms of the easement deed, just a whole variety of things go on with that program. So we started talking about it back and forth and thought, well, maybe Carroll County should be collecting stewardship fees like everyone else does. We're the only entity that does not do that. And it also sort of helps shield. Right now, Galt is doing the monitoring, contracting with the county. We can afford to do it quite inexpensively because we're right here. But 30, 40 years down the road, something could happen to us. We don't know. You know, nobody can sort of tell the future. And if another land trust has to come in and do this monitoring, the fees could be significantly more. Their travel costs are going to be higher, and they pretty much charge more per farm anyway. But I presented this to our Agricultural Advisory Committee, and they had long discussions about it. And I'm going to let Bill sort of talk about the committee and kind of what's going on and what they suggest.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here. You know, it's been said that persistence pays. And I can recall being in front of this body, not you all, but over the last 20 years, talking about farmland preservation and trying to look into that crystal ball and envision what this county is going to look like a generation from now. And fortunately, you all shared that vision and granted us the opportunity by approving this Agricultural Advisory Committee, of which I was elected chair. And I would like to introduce some of our members today. Ms. Kelly Hagan is vice chair. Ryan Morris and Merle Folsom are here with us. But I have to say that in working with them and the ones that couldn't be here today, they are quite an enthusiastic bunch, and they took this responsibility seriously. And they've come up with a number of different things, different ways to improve and streamline this ACEP program so that you all can understand it and the landowners can understand it. And I think you're probably aware that on August 7th, next week, we're having an informational forum at the Ag Center for landowners. Anybody that's interested in this are invited to attend. We talked about it this morning on Community Voice, and it was well received there. We certainly hope that some of you all can be there, but I think it really gives us a jump start going forward. And again, I want to thank you all for your vision, your confidence in us, and allowing us to go down this path.
So I did get the opportunity to speak with Clint last week about this. So standard fees in the stewardship world are somewhere between 2 and 5% of the conservation easement value. And this is not something that the landowner has to stroke a check for. It will actually come out of their closing cost at the day of closing. The committee, after we talked about it, looked at amounts. We looked at all of the easements the county has, which is sitting at 12 right now, and we looked at what if we kept 2.5%. If we had kept 2.5%, where we would be, and it was over $200,000. Typically, stewardship fees are kept in a separate account, not to be commingled with other money, and preferably an interest-bearing account because you want it to grow as you spend out of it every year. So we'd kind of be starting a little bit behind the curve by starting to collect now, but it is a fund that will grow as we do more conservation easements. So the committee felt like 2.5% was a good, fair number. So do y'all have any questions?
Ms. Perry, in our discussions, I guess the only thing that I had a question about, and I'm not saying the 2.5% is not great as presented. My only question was, if you'll recall from our conversation, was would there ever be a time that maybe we needed to have a minimum? And I understand that the idea behind the program, the idea behind getting federal dollars, it's more likely to get approved if it's a higher acreage amount anyways, which the 2.5% will probably inadvertently take care of itself as far as being at some kind of minimum threshold. But if you had a lower acreage farm at the 2.5%, you may still have, obviously there's a minimum of doing business, right? If someone's coming out, whether it's your organization or especially in the future, as you point out, if it's another organization, they may come out and say, we don't care if it's 20 acres or 2,000, we're going to have to do X, Y, and Z minimum, so there's a minimum cost factor in that. So that would be my only question. I'm not suggesting that it has to be in there, but that would be my only suggestion, is maybe having a 2.5% with a minimum, and I don't know what that minimum would be. I know your committee members are a lot more in tune than I would be in yourself, so that's really my only comment about it.
We did have a little bit of that discussion, and I don't see a problem with the minimum. You know, I mean, stewardship fees are what they are. I mean, you know, and they setting a, you know, if y'all want to set a minimum amount, I think that's a great idea. We'll have a minimum, and then, of course, your larger farms are going to far surpass that anyway. Property prices are going up, everybody knows, at a rapid clip, so appraisals are going to go up. So that 2.5%, we may not see the lower prices that we saw 5 years ago. I think the appraisals going into the next couple of years are going to be higher than they've ever been. So we can definitely set a minimum for those small tracts, because we want to encourage some people with small tracts if they want to do it, if it's financially feasible for them to do it, because those small tracts can help us connect bigger tracts that are already in conservation to create those nice corridors of protected property. So, yeah, we're willing to.
So you won't be having a meeting between now and Tuesday, and we want to have something to present to the citizens that come to the meeting on the 7th. So if the commissioners are good, we could leave it right now at the 2.5% at y'all's next meeting, and also following feedback from the citizens that show up, you could come back to us at a future meeting with a presentation for a minimum. Because I hate to just throw a minimum out there.
We could tweak it as we go on. For the first time, you know, this forum is the first time we're ever doing this, and so they will get a really good overview of what's involved, all the way down to expected expenses.
Right, and then y'all can see sort of who is coming and who is, if it is a small farm area. So I hate to wait till Tuesday to discuss this because they're not having a meeting, and we'd like to have something for them to present. Are y'all good with the current presentation and having y'all come back at a future meeting saying that you would like to do a minimum of a set amount for us, or say that you've researched and decided no set minimum? But I hate to have it just hang to a future month.
I'd like to know what all the funds could be used for.
They can only be used for monitoring. Stewardship, well, monitoring and legal defense. That's what stewardship fees are for. Let's say 20 years from now, heir way out in the future that wasn't part of this original deal, you know, to put the family farm into conservation, wants to sue to try to break the easement, which is incredibly hard to do, then the legal fees to fight that lawsuit would also come out of this fund.
So every year, we pay GALT to go and physically look at the property to assure they're still doing what they're supposed to be doing. And the fee is about $750, which is an extreme bargain from what we've seen with other, but that's coming out of the general fund right this moment. So you take $750 times 12.
About $9,000 a year right now.
What all could it
Yeah.
be used for?
So who oversees this account, and what happens to it if your group goes away and somebody else comes in?
Well, the account wouldn't be set up specifically for us.
It'd be
It's the county stewardship fund.
Okay.
So if something were to happen to our group, the county would either train someone in-house to do it, or they would hire an outside land trust, another land trust, to take over monitoring.
Okay.
So I have several questions. I'm just confused as I don't know what, but anyway. So right now we have 12 farms we monitor at $750 apiece, which is $9,000. We said if we implement a 2.5% fee, we'd get over 200,000.
If we had done that in the beginning, yeah.
Right. Okay. So how I'm just clueless because I don't know. I see no logic in the stewardship fee, and I don't care how many people do it. We've got $750 that we pay now to monitor a farm. Basically, I don't like for government to take any more away from the people than they should. And whether they stroke a check or not isn't the point. I don't care if I write a paper check or if I'm forced to hand over 100,000. I get rid of 100,000 to government either way. So stroking a check or not stroking a check doesn't have a thing to do with it. So what are we not accomplishing or funding now with the $750? What's deficient? Why are we changing to taking away 2.5% of a recipient's income? I mean, we have, this whole thing just, to me, it's just about quid pro quo. Okay, so we're rocking along fine. We get $750. People sign up for the program. We get the monitoring done that's necessary. We pay what's necessary to get it done. Then we create, via the chairman and the board's involvement, the Agriculture Advisory Committee. The Agriculture Advisory Committee comes on board, and next thing we know, we're padding our pockets with a 2.5% advisory fee in excess of $200,000 instead of 750 times 12 is $9,000. I don't understand the difference, but anyway. And we're saying not only that, but we're getting the number of farms to sign up. They're going to increase because we got a lot more interest. And then you just said the farms are going to be worth a lot more, so 2.5% is going to get us a whole lot more money. And it's like, my word, this just seems like a self-funding apparatus to take money away from the poor farmers that are encouraged to sign up. I mean, yeah, please sign up, because the more you sign up, we get 2.5% of everything, and let's hope that the land values increase so we can get more money. I mean, I just don't understand. It is, in my eyes, a blatant conflict of interest, quid pro quo setup of the recipients. What are we not getting done now? What's not getting accomplished? And what are we having to pay thousands of dollars out of our own pocket or Galt's pocket to get the required monitoring done? Is somebody sending reports to us and saying, you know, we're not going to be able to do this anymore because y'all aren't monitoring sufficiently? I mean, what? I'm lost.
Okay. First of all, monitoring is a requirement.
Sure, and it's getting done.
From the USDA. And it was always a requirement. Even from the very beginning, monitoring was a requirement. The landowner has always been responsible for all fees attached to doing this program. Always. Their appraisal, their closing costs, their attorney fees, their surveys, all of that has always been the burden of the landowner. And that is how it works nationwide. What Carroll County did not choose to do early on, and I don't know why. I mean, this was a long time ago, and we don't know why they never started collecting stewardship fees, but it is a normal course of
Well, there's a lot of things we don't know. We don't know why we are renting buildings for $1 an hour and paying $10,000 to get the roof on, but anyway, go ahead.
But it was pointed out, you know, by the NRCS that the county should be doing this. Because you want your program to match what everybody else is doing. I mean, you want to keep those programs kind of uniform. You could, like right now, it isn't very expensive, but what happens 20 years from now if Galt can't do this and another land trust comes in and they charge upwards, they start at $2,000 a farm plus expenses. And all of a sudden the county gets a bill, a huge bill.
So we want to start implementing a 2.5% fee that brings in over $200,000 versus. That's just what we said.
No.
If we get a 2.5%.
If we had collected on those others, that's what the stewardship fund would look like.
Right. But we want to start implementing a fee just to ensure that, hey, if by chance sometime in the future somebody else has to do it and they charge more, we'll already be charging more. I mean, that's like saying, let's start paying more for groceries, because if grocery costs go up in the future, hey, we'll already be used to paying for the higher grocery bill. I don't understand.
Well, the fees involved in doing a conservation easement are not static. I mean, they're not.
No, they're
stable.
$750
You know, they're
now.
gonna change
Why-
every
Okay, let's increase it to 900. I mean, you're not answering the question. What is not getting funded now? What monitoring are we deficient in now at $750?
We aren't deficient
Okay.
right now.
So is 750 sufficient funds to do the monitoring?
For now, yes.
Okay, so why don't we wait until the bill goes up before we start?
Because you can't retroactively charge these farms. You know, this has to be done for the farms.
Okay, we're not losing money now.
Well, it's
we're
the will
just
of the
taking it-
commissioners whether or not you want to charge a stewardship fee. That is-
Why should we be taking more out of the money of farmers? I don't understand.
I don't know what to tell you other than that is
I
how
don't know what
this
to tell you
program
either.
works.
So are we supposed to decide if we're going to charge a stewardship fee or not? Is that the bottom line?
Yes, because right
Over the
now,
750 or different than the 750 we're
Well, I'm
charging
not, I'm
now.
not getting into that.
So right
The question
now-
is for us is, are we going to decide to just charge the fee or not?
right now, in the general fund, every year, the county has a budget line that we put 750 in times the 12 farms.
Okay.
So the same 12 every year, if you add a 14th, a 15th, a 16th, that comes out of the general fund every year. So the question they have brought to us in studying everyone else's is that a stewardship fee is charged to put into a separate fund over here, so you're not tapping into the general fund. This fund would continuously monitor all the farms in the program, so it wouldn't be out of the general fund. So the question is, we can continue to fund through the general fund, or we can start a stewardship fee that funds only that. It won't fund anything else. You know, it can't pay for any vehicles. It only will take care of that. What she is saying is you can't go back. So at some point, if the county finds they can't afford this for some reason, we cannot go back and tap any of these farms. You can only start with the newer applications.
Gotcha. So
it's a
closing
way
costs for current
to
farms, you have to charge the fee.
make sure that the program continues and it's fully funded. So whether you want to continue to leave it in the general fund with the hopes that we can always continue to fund it, even if the costs go up, or if we want to take this action of putting a savings account together to pay for this fee like all other counties across the United States do. That's the question to you right this moment.
I feel that the 2.5% is extreme. That's just my personal feeling.
It sounds like it, but I don't have any data that shows me that. I don't have any data that says 2.5%, we're going to collect X amount, which you said if it was applied, it would be over 200,000, versus an expenditure amount of what? I don't know what.
So I would say that there's several components here as I'm trying to figure this in my head. So first of all, I've not done any data to say should it be 2.5%, should it be 0.5%, or should it be 7.5%. But I think the idea behind this is that this is in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a one-time deal when the land transaction happens. All the money happens on the front end, and so you either get it then or you don't. But 100 years from now, assuming we'll all be dead by then, but 100 years from now, the idea is on the 100th year, there's going to be an evaluation done that year too.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it cost you $750 still then, or whether it costs $7,500 then. And so to me, that's the roll of the dice and the gamble that I think Commissioner Reynolds is wanting some more clear data of where did we come up with this 2.5%. And I can't speak intelligently that that's what the number should be, but I understand the complexity and the longevity that in perpetuity, that will always have to be done. And so I think therein lies the complication that on the front end, it may look like you're taking in this mass amount of money, but 25 years from now, it may be negative. It may be what you're taking in was taken in at 2.5%. Not saying that you can't go adjust it over time, but it may be that account, so to speak, is negative. So I certainly see the concerns And I don't know, I can't speak intelligent of what the number is, but I can speak intelligently that I understand the complexity that once this is done, this is in perpetuity, whether it stays at 750, which we know it won't, or whether it goes up to $17,000 a year, which I don't think would happen, but that's the point, is anytime you do something in perpetuity, you don't know what those costs will be in the future. And so that's not right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just kind of a fact of what you're dealing with in the moment. So I don't know, I don't know what the percentage should be either, but I do think that if we are assisting a small contingent group on getting potentially hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars for their property, the idea that other taxpayers should always in perpetuity pay to keep that evaluation up, and there was nothing that had to come out on the front end from the group that was benefiting from it, I don't know that that's a fair analysis either. So I would certainly not be in favor of not charging anything, because I think you've got only a few farms that are going to benefit, and we want them to benefit, but you're taking taxpayers' dollars to exclusively only assist in that original transaction, and there's no income to balance that out. What I would be amenable to is to say maybe we don't need to start at that higher percentage. Maybe we don't need to take in that much money. But I also think the other flip side of the coin, it was just like when we changed the leave policy. We were going from you could share donated leave it didn't matter, you could get 10,000 hours to then all of a sudden we were considering taking it completely away, and I thought there needed to be a balance in the middle. Same thing here. I don't think we don't need to take in anything, but I don't know that maybe 2.5%, maybe if you feel uncomfortable, maybe we could lessen that number just to start out with to get us somewhere on the block. But to not do anything, I don't think is a sound financial decision, because it's not a one-time or a couple of year transaction. It's in perpetuity. Am I speaking correctly on this? Okay.
We've been doing monitoring for years, so we should have a good handle on the cost. And we don't have any information on the cost. My thing is, let's set the fee based on the cost. I don't care if 97 other counties or entities or whatever they are. I mean, just because everybody else does it between 2% and 5% doesn't mean we should take more money than 2% or 5% or whatever. We should base it on cost. And how expensive can monitoring be? We've done it. We ought to have a good handle on it. And other than legal defense, we shouldn't see a large increase in 10, 20 years for snapping some photos and talking with people. I mean, how expensive is it to talk? And we take some photos and we go out there and we look and see that they're not building whatever it is they're not supposed to build or whatever. I mean, it sounds like a relatively inexpensive feat to monitor. And 2.5% to me, I have no context between that and the cost. And if we're banking 2.5% off of everybody, and it only costs us $200, I mean, what happens with all the other money? I mean, it sits there in case, by chance, in 80 years, we happen to have some attorney's fees to pay. It doesn't make sense to me. Well, I think we should base this on cost, and we have a good idea of cost, and so we should say, hey, it costs about, what, $140 a year or something?
So can we take the $750, apply it to each farm, and see what that percentage is?
I was just going to ask, for the most recent ones, I know we approved somewhat last year, the year before. If you took 2% of those, what would that dollar amount have been?
I'd have to.
I'm sorry, I put you on the spot with that.
I'd have to look. So
way more than
first,
$750.
let me go back and say that every land trust is different. Some land trusts charge a lot more than 5%. Some land trusts have a very complex
I don't care what the
formula.
charge is. I care what the cost is.
There's no statistical data on any of this, because every land trust functions differently, because they have different overhead costs. You know, that's just the way this has always worked. I'm sorry it doesn't fit in your model,
it doesn't fit in anybody's logic. When you're going to charge a fee and it's taxpayers' money, and it's particularly farmers' money in this point, you charge what it costs. You don't bank money and save it in somebody's bank account. If perchance some legal defense thing comes along, you have to fund.
What it's going to cost him,
the reason we tried to.
Oh, my word. So we're going to collect money and hold on to it for 50 years if by chance the fee goes up?
I think in 30 years, they'll be losing money.
This is
Yeah, I know.
ridiculous.
Decide or not.
So at this point, I'm going to gather we don't have a consent agenda item because Mr. Reynolds Commissioner Reynolds, probably wants to vote no on this or
I mean,
change the number. So
I may
what
be a
I'll
lame
do is
duck, but I can still quack.
I will leave this till Tuesday. So those of you that want to talk with Dee and your committee member, because remember each one of you appointed someone to the committee, and maybe one of you will come back, two of you will come back with an idea of how you want to change it, and then we'll vote at that time. So at least they have something they can take back to that meeting on the 7th, that you may say at this time there is no fee charge, there's a 1%, 2%, 5%, whatever, and then, like I said, if we can always change it as things are fluid, but for the current group coming before us, they need to know something. So that's what I will do. We'll wait till Tuesday, so.
I just want
Thank
some
y'all
data
for
based on
coming and-
cost.
Thank you. I know y'all have spent a lot of time because I see your meetings and I appreciate, and I think some of your meetings are very long. So thank y'all for helping us on this. I'm now going to move into, it is 10.5, 10.6, and 10.7 is all with our Public Works Director, Danny Yates. So I'm going to call you forward to the podium and we'll start with the road abandonment of Arnold Road.
Thank you, Chairman, Board. A couple of months ago, Mr. Brett Arnold, on behalf of his mother, Miss Betty Arnold, approached me about possibly abandoning a section of Arnold Road that went through their property. They own the property on both sides of the road. He's been having a really hard time with people littering off-road vehicles, keeping the road in bad shape and just ripping up and down the dirt road pretty much. So I got him started on the process walked him through the process of doing the application, what he needed to do and all, and I think he's worked with Miss Blackman there several times, communicated with her, and he's finally got his application completed, and we're presenting it to you tonight, and to go ahead and start the process. And this will be, if y'all want to start the process, we'll run it, advertise it in the paper, and then we'll hold a public hearing at the meeting, the next meeting, and then we'll be in y'all's hands.
Everybody signed off.
Yes, sir.
Everyone signed.
Yes, sir. The neighbors have signed off on it, and the rest of the departments around the county as far as the water. I have not heard back from Carroll EMC on it, but it's the rest of the departments in the county is fire, sheriff, EMA, water. They're all fine with it. None of them have any utilities on it.
No objection from any other citizens?
No objections from the two neighbors. There aren't but two neighbors on the road, and no objections from them.
Mr. Yates, I appreciate all the documentation you got, like you said, from the internal departments or those that
Yes.
may be just under the umbrella of Carroll County.
Yes, sir.
Because I think that's important that anytime we're looking at something, and we're not saying you can't rebuild a road in the future, but when you think about growth or whatever, we've closed quite a few roads recently in the last couple of years,
Yes,
and they all make sense, but we want to make sure it makes sense to all the other departments that might have access or may utilize it for something that we're not aware of. So I appreciate you having everyone look at this. And
Yes,
and
I wished I would have had a picture developed and given to y'all. Mr. Arnold, last Friday after lunch, well, he sent me an email on Saturday with pictures. Sometime Friday after lunch, apparently a box truck went down Arnold Road with someone in the back throwing tires out up and down the road. And so he contacted me Saturday evening, and I had someone go up there Monday, get the tires out of the road, get it cleaned. And so he's at his wit's ends with some of the other people around there. Let's just say that.
Are y'all good with moving forward on the process at this time? Okay, great. Thank you, Danny. We'll move now to 10.6, which is the restriping and pavement markings.
All right, and again, I think I've spoken with most of y'all about this. We actually got a grant from the Georgia Department of Transportation to use any way we wanted to use it as far as maintenance on our roads. There was no match to any of this money. They gave us, cut us a check for $2,069,236.38. And we felt in our department the best And the quickest way to spend the money would be to stripe roads. We want to see roads striped. So we compiled a list of 200